Okay, I'd like to do a sound check. Could you tell me if you can hear me? I know the air conditioner can be really bad. Please let me know if the sound is okay. My dog chewed up my other microphone, so I need to see if the sound is good. Sound check. Sound check. 1, 2. Okay. Alright, let's get started. Today we had a hearing in the Senate and it lasted for over 6 hours. Oh good, this sounds good. Thank you. Alright, thank you Delma and Eric and the guy who came first. Sorry, I wasn't able to see it. You know what, I already got home and what I was planning to do was go to sleep. But there were a lot of questions about what happened today. Yeah, I am tired. Actually started to take off my makeup but I decided to keep the kilay. Because kilay is life. Okay. The freedom of speech. Hi. Alright. The freedom of speech is one of the greatest of our freedoms. One of the greatest of our rights, and it is a protected right. The Constitution says very clearly, and it says, the Constitution is very clear and concise. No law shall be passed abridging the freedom of speech. Take note that the prohibition is against the state, because who makes laws? The laws are made by Congress and the Senate. The legislature makes the law. So the Constitution gives this directive to the legislature and says, no law shall be passed abridging the freedom of speech or of expression or of the press. Actually, there's a story. Oops, I hit my phone. Actually, there is a story about the Constitutional Convention. And during the debates on the freedom of speech and how it was going to be drafted, Director Lino Broca was very adamant that it should not just be the freedom of speech. No laws shall be passed abridging the freedom of speech. Instead, he insisted that the freedom of expression and of the press must be included. And why is that? He said that speech and expression are two different things. But Broca wasn't a lawyer. Under the law, you could just say the freedom of expression or the freedom of speech. And these things include drawings. They include artistic expressions, paintings. So speech isn't just speech under the Constitution. All manner of expression, including that of the press. When the press writes, that is expression, that is speech, that is the freedom of the press. In the vernacular, we say, ang kalayaan na magpahayag at magsalita. Because this is exactly what we're trying to do. But salita is of course not limited to that which comes out of the mouth. Bodily expressions, the way you dress, all of these are forms of expression, and there is no law that should be passed abridging the freedom of speech. But as we know, all freedoms are limited too, just as much as the freedom of speech is limited. Therefore, you are free to speak, but you are not free to libel. You're not free to commit sedition. You're not free to try to, you're not free to divulge state secrets. You are not free to disturb the public peace. You are not free to cause scandal. You're not free to lie about something that can affect the public order and public interest, as well as the public security, the national security. So all rights, particularly the freedom of speech, is in fact limited, and it is limited to utterances that can destroy either the country or other people. What are the other things that we have to remember about the freedom of speech? One of them is that no law is passed can be passed abridging the freedom of speech, and in particular, one of those that are prohibited, and all, because we can see that there are laws that do in fact limit the freedom of speech. But one of the things also that the court has added among the prohibitions is that you cannot restrain speech prior to its utterance. So today at the hearing, both RJ and Mocha would sometimes make a mistake and say they cannot prevent me from my speech. What they were saying is that what is not allowed is prior restraint. Para akong naiiyak. No, actually that's my phone. My phone makes things look really bright and clear, and that's the reflection of the screen on my eyes. So back to the freedom of speech. The freedom of speech, no law can be passed abridging it, and no law can be passed preventing speech. While laws are passed to prevent the damage that is caused, or to allow payment of damages in case that speech causes damage to another person, or causes damage to society or damage to the country, then those laws are allowed. Those laws are deemed constitutional. In the end, all freedoms pertain to what is for the public good. All freedoms pertain to what is best for all of us. So there's certain speech that is not best for all of us, and we prevent those kinds, not prevent, but we penalize those kinds of speech. Now, some penalties are worse than others. For example, libel is supposed to be, the trend towards libel now is to decriminalize it, but here we actually added penalties to the freedom of speech. Yes, you're right to be a little nervous about Mr. Hilbay's speech, and we can talk about that later. So no law can be passed also preventing the utterance, but if the utterance or the speech or the expression is damaging, then you can seek damages or you can seek penalties. So the seditious speech, nobody can put a gag on your mouth and say you can't talk, or you can't talk like that. But once you make that speech, and once that speech is either criminally penalized, then you're penalized after the utterance. Okay, that's what it means to prevent prior restraint. Today at the Senate, one of this great freedom was discussed in depth in the context of fake news. What is fake news? We discussed this before. Fake news began when people started putting up what we call, mirror sites, or sites that parodied or imitated legitimate sites, sites such as news sites, but would change the site name just a little so that there clearly was an intent to mislead, and the news that was being put into those sites were clearly not founded on any truth, or founded only on half-truths. This became a concern because people would start to believe these fake news sites and think that these are actually bits of news. For the most part, we haven't seen anything completely damaging, but you can see where the public can be endangered. What if a fake news site issues a storm warning and people vacate a town? And this is a movie scenario. People vacate a town, and then the villains come in and rob that town. So there's certain kinds of speech that are really regulated, but as we mentioned earlier, they are penalized with jail and so on. Now, fake news, and going back to that, is a very dangerous subject to regulate because you're seeking to regulate free speech. Now, today there was a lot of discussion about you must be truthful, about how you must give correct information. Now, this is one of the reasons why I am suddenly very, very impressed with Senator Grace Poe, because she caught that. She caught that today, and she said, it is imperative that when you work for government, that you must be truthful. So that you must be truthful in all of your utterances. But the freedom of speech doesn't say that it is limited only to telling the truth. There is no penalty for lying unless that lie is libelous, unless that lie is seditious, unless that lie endangers the national security, public order, or public interest. Nothing in the concept of the freedom of speech does it say that it is limited to truth, because sometimes the truth is changeable, or sometimes it is relative. an accused will always say, I am innocent. And he can keep talking about his innocence, and we can always say, he's either not being truthful or being completely truthful. But a court can issue another opinion, or a third person can issue another opinion. And we can have opinions all day long, and they can all still be right. Or they can also all still be wrong. So, the freedom of speech, nowhere in it does it say that you're only free to tell the truth, or that there is an imperative to tell the truth in the law. The imperative, of course, is moral. Therefore, it was Senator Grace Poe who caught this, because we saw that Senator Aquino, for example, and occasionally Senator Zubiri were straying into territory as saying, you're free to write anything you want, but you have to be truthful. That is not true. Because what is art? What is fiction? Are these truths? These are truths clothed in lies. So you cannot say that your utterance is protected only if you're telling the truth. Because sometimes you tell the truth in different ways. And some of these ways are called art. So, and sometimes it's called not art. And that's a different story altogether. The point here being is that the freedom of speech is supposed to guarantee not just the speech that you like, but that which you hate. Not just the speech that makes you comfortable, but the one that pushes at you, one that bothers you. Because we know the story of Galileo. Galileo's heliocentric theory, well, it wasn't his theory, it was Copernicus, and before that somebody else. But we know that it was an unacceptable thing. The heliocentric model was unacceptable, and Galileo was punished for that, and it took 600 years for the church to admit that this was a matter of fact. Why do we protect the freedom of speech? Because it is the freedom of speech that allows us to create. It is the freedom of speech that allows us to air out new ideas. It is the freedom of speech that allows for an atmosphere where these ideas will grow, where these ideas will take root, and where some truths are in fact and finally brought to light. So nowhere, again, I will repeat that, nothing in the freedom of speech says that your speech is protected only if it is true. But in libel, the truth also is sometimes not a defense. That's why we don't say that you must be truthful. The lie, what is important in the case of libel is because you could be telling the truth completely, but if telling the truth is completely unnecessary likewise, and only meant to destroy or shame or embarrass a person, then sometimes even that truth can be a lie, can be libel. So again, the freedom of speech is a lot more complicated, or in fact, a lot greater than our senators sometimes understand or sometimes express. However, it doesn't mean also that our senators were wrong today. They were understandably upset because somebody had said that 7 senators deliberately did not sign a resolution saying that the Senate is against extrajudicial killings, or that they're reflecting the sense of the Senate against extrajudicial killings. Because my goodness, who is for, really, seriously, who do you think would actually be for extrajudicial killings? Nobody. I really don't think that anybody is in favor of that. Hey, sorry, dogs. But we also understand that they were necessarily upset. And sometimes when we get upset, we try to restrain that thing that upsets us. And in this case, what had upset the senators was a slanted, but it wasn't news, it was a slanted article in a blog or a Facebook page called Silent No More, ironically. Now, Silent No More has in fact been libeling, well, at least potentially libeling, a lot of people, myself included, just for full disclosure. And it is a matter of concern. But it is not fake news in that sense. It is libel. The problem with the site, excuse me, called Silent No More, is that it isn't that they're putting out fake news. It is that they're putting out libel. Okay, and those are two different things, which is why I felt a sudden respect for Senator Franklin Dillon. Now, a lot of people don't like him, and I agree, because sometimes I really truly feel uncomfortable with him and the other things that he does. But today, he put it right. He said, what is there to regulate? If we have freedom of speech, what is the problem? If that freedom of speech maligns you, besmirches your reputation, then file for libel. Otherwise, people should be free to talk, and he is absolutely right. The freedom of speech protects only this. It protects all manner of speech. Okay? Yes, I know you don't like him, but today he was right. Okay? And just as today, I had to recalibrate my response to Senator Trillanes, because clearly he and Mocha were enjoying their repartee. And, that's good. That is also good. The other thing that we learned today, that I certainly learned today, is that people do not fall into boxes. Sometimes, even the people we don't like Senator Dillon, happens to be right. He happens to articulate precisely what we think the law should be, or it should remain. Because Senator Villanueva's proposal actually makes me feel slightly nervous. When the problem is that there is misinformation, the answer to misinformation is information. The answer to the lack of information is more information. And in order for there to be more information, there must be the freedom to bring out that information. So, I think that regulation, even in the sphere of the internet, is not in our interests. Ma'am Trixie, you simplified terms. I thought I was. Okay, I will. So, good evening. Sige, I'll just take a minute to look at your comments, because we'll have to also discuss what about the speech that pertains to public officials. Okay, because the Supreme Court has already now the Supreme Court has already said that a public official, in U.S. versus Bustos, the Supreme Court said a public official should not be onion-skinned with references to comments on his official acts. Okay? The interests of government and society demands full discussion of official acts. So, for instance, today, Senator Bam said, inokray-okray daw yung kanyang what people refer to as the pagpag bill, which sadly I found that bill good, because it was supposed to make use of extra food, and that extra food in restaurants, and that doesn't mean extra food that's on your plate, but extra food that is produced in bakeries and restaurants be collected by the DSWD for distribution to the poor. But unfortunately, Senator Bam's bill was misappreciated, and people started calling him pagpag. Was it a joke? Maybe, but that joke killed the bill. So, I'm not sure if remember, that joke is covered by the freedom of speech. But, the sad part is the effect. Nevertheless, that speech is protected to the point that Senator Bam could not take action against anybody who called it pagpag bill. Okay. And reading your comments, give me a second. Thank you for everybody who said thank you and that we were really good today. But I think that the most articulate person today was TP, really. So give a shout out everybody to RJ Nieto for really standing up to it. I particularly like that comment where he said, "I am happy she's detained." Why? There is no need to be compelled into saying something that you don't feel. maybe Senator Bam didn't present it correctly. I agree. It's possible Senator Bam could have gone on an information campaign to counter the misinformation. Diba? That was the idea. Freedom of speech says we should have more information. So, okay, tama. Sayang po yung oras para sa taong bayan. Support you. Di ka ba pagod? Oo, pagod. But I think some things need to be explained. Oops, sorry. Okay, super. Hi, I'm sorry if I'm not reading all your comments out loud. Thank you very much for all of the good and wonderful things you're saying. Even Twitter was surprisingly nice today. And you know what? I get bashed a lot on Twitter, so that's saying a lot. Okay, hypothetically, do you think nilamon nito ang mga Senado? Okay. A lot of you were pointing out that the problem seems to be that originally the hearing was supposed to be about Silent No More. And the fact that the senators, 7 senators were maligned by Silent No More, and that they have to be called to account for that. The purpose of the hearing wasn't to hold Silent No More for its acts. Remember that these hearings are conducted for the purpose of legislation. So, the good thing about Silent No More is that because there's such awful things that are written there, and then it's difficult to find them or to file cases against them. We now are faced with the possibility of regulation. And on this one, I agree with Senator Poe. Maybe the issue isn't about limiting speech to truth, but actually to making people accountable. And by being accountable, it means that if you're going to say something, then you show your face, you be upright and upfront about who you are and where you are, and own whatever it is that you're going to say. Because that is the nature of our freedom. Every right that you're given has a corresponding obligation. So, you're allowed to be free in your speech, but you also have an obligation to observe the laws. And one of those laws are the laws on libel. I don't have to convince TP to study law, he wants to. Sobrang saya ko today. Alright. So, yes, I actually was happy with today's proceedings. You're right, forget anonymity, I agree. I think that if we're going to make people responsible about the use of the internet, which I think is one of the greatest inventions like ever, then there has to be a corresponding obligation to be upfront about who you are. So, but how did it get from the 7 senators into something else? Well, TP was actually talking about, other things, and he was being asked about his blog and the things that he wrote. So that's one of the reasons why it went kind of astray. But it wasn't really purely just about the 7 senators. It was about the bill also of Senator Villanueva penalizing, sorry, the dogs, penalizing. Good grief, Yoshi. Penalizing. It was also about penalizing fake news. Now, what is the kind of fake news that is going to be penalized in the proposed bill? Give me 1 second to bring out this dog. Come on, Yoshi. Out. 1 second. Come on. Okay, out, guys. Out. Go. Sorry, every time I go live, there's a problem with the dogs. Okay. And the phone. All right. So, what is the issue with the bill of Senator Villanueva? Well, there is already a law that penalizes false news. It's when these false news causes damage to the public interest, to the public order, or to national security. So it's already there. the title of the law is, well, Article 154 of the Revised Penal Code, which is entitled Unlawful Publications. So, and in fact, the unlawful publications is very clear that if there is no intent to cause damage, then it's not punishable. If it doesn't cause damage, then it's not punishable. Although, Senator Villanueva would also like to punish the intent, and that's a little scary. Because intent is, well, of course you can prove intent, but it's what we call a slippery slope. So many things can go wrong. So, yes, somebody mentioned it. Somebody mentioned it. I will be on Head Start tomorrow at 8 o'clock. I was reading Miss Karen Davila's tweets today, and clearly she is not in favor of the current popular bloggers. She wants to talk about today's Senate hearing, and I received permission to go ahead and do so. So I'll be on Head Start really early, which means I don't have long tonight because I have to sleep. How about a few questions? Thank you very much. Oh, there's all these wonderful, wonderful comments, and thank you very much. I'm so jahe about about compliments. I have no idea how to handle them. Asking CBCP for what fake news is like asking a lawyer if you have cancer. Yeah, a TP can be really pithy. Ma'am, parang ang mga resource persons ata ang ginisa. You know, that's not the first time. You know, the Senate is notorious for that. Maybe konting bashers sa Twitter because, sorry, I didn't see that. Attorney convinced TP to study law, he wants to. BAM has typical LP moves, always following the path of least energy and resistance. Okay, this is my take on that. Sometimes the senators can do really, really awful things, but as long, for me, as it remains legal, we are free to think badly of them. That is the natural consequence of their act, but if they do something illegal, then we put them in jail. Rappler should have been compelled to attend the hearing. Salamat po, Atty. Tick, sa pagtatanggol. Nanay, as the session ends, oops. Guys, ang bilis ng comments. So I'm not able to pass. Oh yes, the other good thing that happened today is that President Duterte appears to have agreed. He watched the Senate hearing today, and I love this reaction. He said it's not likely that that bill is going to pass, or that even if it passes, if it's going to pass constitutional muster. So the president also agreed with what I was seeing. What we're seeing here is an attempt to regulate free speech, and it's not a good thing. I'm always suspicious of anything that regulates free speech. Sana ikaw na lang po ang senador. Hindi po, dami na ngang bashers. Sa tingin mo, may-elect pa na senador. Just, okay. Yeah, but no, this is funner than being senator. You know, doing FB Live. Okay, other questions, guys? Come on. Sayang yung time. Kilala ka na, run for senator, attorney thinks, no, I'm an introvert. I'm terrified of the public. I mean, I'm very good at speaking before the public, and I can be very articulate in things like Facebook Live, but, you know, asking me to go on a campaign trail is like asking me to shoot myself in the head. Attorney, sinabi ni Trillanes tungkol sa government officials. Alright, let's go back to government officials. Senator Trillanes was positing a theory that once you become a public official, you have no privacy. That's not true. Okay? But I understand where he is coming from. What he's saying is that as a public official, you're expected to act in a certain way. That is why there is what we call the Code of Ethics, which is a law of public officials. And you have to, at all times, act in accordance with the standards of those public officials. Now, this is my take on it. There is no law or nothing in the Code of Ethics that says that you cannot block. In fact, there is nothing in the laws that say that you lose the right to free speech. But there are certain things that are restricted to government officials. For example, You no longer have the right to strike. Okay, government officials or government employees cannot go on strike because it will affect the delivery of services to the public. What other things can be restricted? Well, what was being discussed today was the restriction on speech, or the ability of people, or the right of people to express themselves even if they become public officials. There's nothing in the law that says that. But what is prescribed is that you act like a government official. So, is swearing allowed? Well, remember also that the standards of acting like a government official can also change. So, we have a president who swears on national TV. So, if Asek Mocha can sometimes be acerbic, I would posit, and this is a theory, okay? Theory or opinion. I posit the theory / opinion that the standards have changed. If our president can and finds it all right to swear on national TV, then being acerbic in your blogs is nothing compared to that. Now, who is that? There was another thing that was being said about government officials, that you're no longer that you have to choose blogging or being a public official, because you're paid money from your taxes to do these things. The one thing that was mentioned that kind of gave me pause was that Senator Trillanes said that the public service must be politically neutral. But RJ was correct in saying that political neutrality means that you render services to everybody. You cannot distinguish or discriminate in accordance with political affiliation. Now, I will raise an example to that one. Do you remember Yolanda? In one of those instances, people claimed or people complained that they were being asked who they voted for before they were given their relief goods. So it came to a point that they would pretend to be affiliated with a certain party just so that they would be fed. Now, I am not sure if it was limited, because there are several versions of the story. The other version of the story is that there are people who were listed in barangays, and people who were not in the list were not given food. But the most prevailing story was that they were always being asked either who did you vote for, who are you affiliated with, etc. Or the question, did you vote? If you didn't vote, then you're not given relief goods. So that is an example of a violation of the political neutrality, assuming that is true. So, we also know that what is prohibited is when you protest against your own government and you are a member of the civil service. Now, why is this? Because, you heard of that saying, if you work for someone, then by all means work for that person. And if you disagree, then you leave. And that is the only time when you should be able to speak publicly about your employer. Now, the employer here is the government. Does that mean you lose your right to complain about government services? My theory on this one is that you don't. And for me, this represents a change, because in days before, in years before, that was a complete no-no. You cannot speak badly about your employer, and if your employer is the government, then you're not allowed to go against it, even if you're because you are a government employee. But when those rules were being created, there was no internet. That's how long ago it was. So there's this phenomenon of we now have the ability to publish from our laptops, and a lot of people are going to see that. So the values, or the things that we are used to doing or used to restricting with our government officials has to also change now that things and conditions have also changed. Questions. Yellow trolls and fake accounts, pakita nyo na tapang nyo, sabi ni Tricia May Sanchez Engiozova. You're free to voice out your opinion, pero you have to follow the rules of the land. So if what you're saying tends to be libelous, then, oops, cannot see it. And you can't stay anonymous. Lahat ng nagsasabing bayaran ako for supporting Duterte, pakita nyo muna ang mukha nyo ng magkakasuhan. Correct. Attorney Trixie, yung galing niyo po ni Thinking Pinoy kanina. I defer to Thinking Pinoy. Hi po. Attorney, ang hina po ng audio or ng boses nyo. Okay, how about this? I have to move because the mic is an external mic. Trillanes pointed out about Mocha being accountable for her own blogs, but if being a public official, does that stop you from airing your personal views? Like I said, it used to not be like that. It used to be that, you're right, you couldn't air your personal views because before, you could only do that if you were interviewed on television or if you wrote with the newspaper something that was against the government. But now with desktops and laptops capable of broadcasting all over the world, I think it is time to rethink that policy. What is the purpose for not allowing somebody to express herself in his or her blog? If it undermines government and if you reveal secrets of government, I think that is bad and that to be regulated. But what if your blog is in support of the government? But what if your blog is in you're expressing your love for this president or your full support for this administration or that you absolutely adore your cabinet secretary? Then what is wrong with that kind of expression? Slate at any tricks for tomorrow's head start. I will try. Karen Davila has always been nice to me whenever she's been interviewing me. I do not expect her to be nice tomorrow, but it would be my fault if I don't do well. I wouldn't blame her. Good evening, attorney. So much energy to do live. No, actually, I don't know where it's coming from. Okay lang ba, attorney, yung sagot ni TP kanina na happy siya na naka-jail si De Lima? Di ba siya posibleng balikan ni Trillanes? With what? Diba? I don't think it is a sin for RJ to have expressed his opinion on Senator De Lima. Wala akong tanong, attorney. All I want to say is thank you. You're welcome. Carmelita says, can't TP dare a one-on-one debate with those senators? I think he can handle them. Oh, I don't doubt that, which is why I don't think the senators will take that. Attorney, how about him as senator? Lalo na yung mga binabato niya kay Duterte, isn't it over the belt na? Ah, yes. What you mean, Senator Trillanes? Well, his speech is protected because he's a senator, not because he's an elected official, but because the Constitution provides him with immunity. So, Senator Trillanes was distinguishing between elected government officials and not elected ones, saying that not elected ones are subject to the Code of Ethics. I mean, so are all elected officials. They're also subject to the Code of Ethics. There's no difference. The only difference is that senators have immunity, some immunity. Okay, Trillanes and Ortiveros are top two officials violating those Code of Ethics. Arguably, yes. Attorney Trix, good job in the Senate hearing, pero parang ang purpose ng hearing na yun para busala ng mga vloggers na pumapatig sa gobyernong ito. That is why, if you will notice the reaction of our president, it's that it's not likely that this law is going to get passed. Attorney, sino yung kasama mo na girl katabi ni Mocha, magaling siya? That's Asek Banag. Yeah, she's really cool. Attorney, mostly mga kilala ko na kawani. Oops, sorry, you have to repeat that. Hope to watch a video of your interview on Head Start. We don't have access to ANC. Okay, I think they'll put it online. Not sure though. Good evening, watching from Singapore. God bless. Attorney, parang naiba ang focus ng usapan kanina. Yes, we mentioned that earlier on. It's really organic. One question led to another. Attorney, already answered. Sana imbitahan ka ni Karen Davila. Yes, I'm going on Head Start tomorrow. Good evening, watching from Dubai. Thanks for supporting Digong. You're welcome. Why Trillanes cannot act like a government official? He seems to think that he is. Laban ka, asek mo kauson. Huwag ka matakot sa dilawang, bira lang ng bira. Yes. Attorney, sa tingin po pa may mas dapat i-regulate sa paggamit ng fake account kaysa pag-regulate ng fake news. Agree, fake accounts. No. God bless Attorney Tricks. Mabuhay kayo. Good evening. Huwag mo nang pansinin ng mga bashers, mamahalin ka rin nila balang araw. Oh, was that my previous comment? Yeah. No, hindi ko naman sila pinapansin. But it's just that, I don't want people to be fighting over it. And it causes a lot of negativity. Bakit si Trillanes gustong gamitin ng M16 to shoot the president tapos umaangal siya? I agree. There is something inherently unequal when a sitting senator who has immunity goes after somebody who doesn't for the same things that he's doing. Attorney, tanong ni Bam Aquino kay Mocha. Sorry, you got to repeat that. I missed that. Ask ko lang, Attorney, kaya ba mapasala? Sorry. Senator saying Mocha can't blog anymore. I beg to differ, and I think this is something that the courts can resolve. Remember, Asik Mocha was appointed primarily due to the fact that she has a large following. And whenever the government gets to disseminate information on her blog, then it has the potential to reach so many people. And she does get a lot of engagements. So I think hindi sayang yung paggamit ng blog ng gobyerno ni Asik, the use of Asik Mocha's blog by the government in order to disseminate information isn't wasted. Bawal ba yung ginagawa niyong magpa-picture sa labas ng office ni Senator De Lima? No. Senator Trillanes was more after the sentiment that RJ and his friend Mike Acevedo Lopez were expressing in front of Senator De Lima's office. They were essentially saying, and RJ was very clear about this, that they're glad that she's in jail. They're glad that she has spent 200 plus days in jail. What case can be filed against Kokoy Dayaw? Well, I think libel. Good evening. Blogging is only a hobby. The right of Mocha, even though she's a government, has the right to blog. Yes. Ate, okay lang ba yung audio nyo? Baka mahina lang ang volume ng phone ng iba dyan. Good. Okay lang yung volume. Thank you. Can PCOO retrieve Kokoy's contract? We will see. Watching in Doha. Thank you sa paggabay. You're also an eloquent person. Thank you. Madam Typo Error po. Freedom. Oops, freedom ba? Sige, I'll correct it later. Thank you. No, I'm not teary-eyed. What you're seeing is a reflection of the screen in my eyes. Support for children. Yes, there are government officials who have columns and broadsheets. That's right. Tiny, I love making my photos anime depending on the trend, but when you browse my page, you would see my personal pictures in the other background. I didn't get the question. Attorney, I just want to say, ang cute ng forma mo kanina. Who saw me? Attorney, sa tingin niyo po, dapat, well, I think that fake accounts should be regulated. Yan. So, Attorney Fix, pasa na si RJ sa'yo. Anak ko na lang, hindi pa nakakaalam. Thank you for reading my question. In short, Trillanes is wrong and said, sorry. How about yung mga wrong information na binabato ni VP Lenny? You know what? We wanted to raise that earlier, so we'll raise it at the next hearing. We'll be talking about also those instances where the government is the victim. Maganda yung palma ko kanina. More lectures from you, watching from Italy. Thanks sa live feed. You look sleepy. I am sleepy. Attorney, ano po yung blanket immunity na hinihingi ni TP? Well, TP was being careful. He was worried that the things that he might say might violate some law, so he asked if he can be granted immunity for the testimony that he would give. Remember that there are some witnesses who have already received immunity, particularly in the House. Do you remember? During the investigation on Senator Laila de Lima's participation in the drug trade, a lot of the witnesses were granted immunity for the effects of everything they were going to say during the course of giving their testimony. Today was supposed to be the deadline for the Senator Trillanes, to submit his answer. Well, then we will see tomorrow if he actually did. Next hearing po, may subpoena po ba si Kokoy Dayo? He already got an invitation. I think he's going to be subpoenaed. Done sharing. Oh nga, I forgot. Everybody please click the share button right now. Yeah. And for those of you who haven't yet been following the Luminous page, please go ahead, do follow, so that you'll get advance notice next time of whenever I have a live. I will be doing regular live sessions on Saturday mornings, because last Saturday was a very good response, and it seems we had a lot more time to do that. So take a second to do the sharing, please. Don't forget to share, and don't forget to follow the page. Josh, athletics today was supposed to be the deadline. Yes, we discussed that. Bakit walang nagpunta mga anti-Duterte? Nabahag ba ang mga butot nila? I'm not sure, but you're right. Rappler was noticeably absent. Watching from Ireland, can we not remove that immunity? To remove the immunity of the senators, we have to amend the Constitution. So you can't do it with a simple law. And even if we could do it with a simple law, do you think the senators would actually do that? If it's true that Duterte has hidden wealth, sorry, didn't see that. Anong reaction niya sa sinabi ni Trillanes about the PCOO? I think that the senator is entitled to his own opinion. Watching from Calgary, tama lang ang pag-vlog, etc. Okay. Guys, ang dami rin nagpi-PM. Guys, huwag mo na mag-PM. Hindi po ba immunity of senators contradicts accountability? Yes, but the immunity is granted by the Constitution. Done both. Please provide recap of your interview tomorrow once I get time. Yes. Rappler was reminded by PNP about the wrong stats and didn't rectify the error. That's right. Done sharing, attorney watching from Qatar. Federalism is the answer. When next po ninyong hearing? They didn't give us a date. Done sharing from Barcelona. Guys, if you haven't shared, please share. Sa observation ko lang po, nangyari dyan sa Pinas, parang mulang may force na ayon magkaisang mga Pilipino. I think that the unity of, if you expect everybody in the Philippines to agree on one thing, that's not going to happen. By unity, it means that we all agree, for instance, on certain things. One, we all agree to abide by our laws, our constitution, etc. Let's all pay taxes. Let's all obey the rules. That's enough unity for me. I don't think we need unity in opinion. But that's me. Recall elections. Yes, I agree. If there are recall elections for mayors, then I think there should be recall elections also for senators. We'll just discuss a few more questions before I think I might fall asleep in the middle of this Facebook Live. Bakit nag-walkout si Hontiveros? No, she had to go to the confirmation of General Simatu. From Belgium, I'm late. I was watching the recording of the Senate hearing. 6 hours. God bless, watching from Hong Kong. Marcos Monument, watching from New York. Okay. So, what did we learn? We learned that the freedom of speech disallows the creation of laws that would abridge it. It also comes with certain restrictions: libelous speech, slanderous speech, speech that endangers the national interest, speech that causes damage. Yelling fire in a movie theater is not covered by the freedom of speech. It's not protected speech. The government cannot restrain a person before he speaks. Fake news is a dangerous term because sometimes it's just a mistake. If it is an intentional fake news but it doesn't cause damage, should it be punishable, etc. So we remember to be wary of any forms of restrictions on the freedom of speech, because the freedom of speech is one of the greatest of our rights, and that this is what causes new ideas. This is what allows us free discussion. This is what allows the introduction of new means of expression. The freedom of speech is democratic space. Good evening. When's the next hearing? Okay. All right. For the recap of your questions, we don't know yet when the next hearing is, but we do know that there's going to be another hearing. TP was outstanding. Franco was great. Mocha was also great. And I disagree with anybody who says that she looked weak just because she had a selfie with Senator Trillanes. I think that there is a time for everything and everything under the sun, and there is a time to be sweet and a time to be attacking. There's a time to be belligerent and a time for diplomacy. And none of these strategies is ever going to be a sign of weakness. It is a sign that we want something for more people than just ourselves. Okay, super duper duper tired. Thank you very much for bearing with me on this Facebook Live. Please don't forget to share, and we will announce the second hearing as soon as we hear word from Senator Grace Poe. Oh, big shout out to Senator Grace Poe. I think she did very well today. I think Mocha did very well. Asek Uson did very well today. Asek Banaag, Franco Mabanta, and of course, the man of the hour, thinking Pinoy, RJ Nieto himself. Please give everybody a round of applause or congratulations or whatever you can on your walls to show your appreciation for these really good people. And at the same time, I think some kind of kudos also goes to Senator Trillanes for endeavoring to not be belligerent towards Asek Mocha today. I think that it might have taken a lot out of him, but that he showed it. And I think that he deserves some points for that. It doesn't mean I like him, okay? Please. But I like that he was very diplomatic today. Thank you very much again. Good night, guys. I'll see you soon. I hope you can get to watch Head Start. And if magkakalat ako, please call me out on it. Thank you. Good night. Mwah, mwah, mwah.